Heya Kata Gang, it's your boy Enzo once again, back with another episode of Hashtag Coach Bites, where we pick the brains of some of our coaches here at Kata Career. Our guest for today is a digital marketing professional with years of experience working with companies like GCash, East West Bank, and just recently with First Circle. She's currently taking, as I would call, a purposeful and productive hiatus from work. But to tell us more about it, please welcome Koach Belli. So what is up, Coach Belli?
And so doing really well. The productive hiatus is working out very well. Really happy to be here and talking to you guys today.
Before we delve deeper into what you're currently doing right now, let's get to know you a little bit better. So if you could share your background, education, and some other relevant experiences that shape who you are today.
Sure. I have lived in the Philippines all my life. I went to elementary and college in St. Jude Catholic School, right next to Malacanang. So walang pasok kapag may mga rallies. I moved on to college in Ateneo where I studied business management, and then really immediately after college started working in kind of the area of startups and tech and digital. And over the years, I've kind of specialized a little bit more. At the start, it was very general. I was with e-commerce. I spent some time with an agency. And then in more recent years, really focused on fintech and digital banking, financial services, that kind of a thing. And yeah, as you said, right now, I am taking a break from my past almost 10 years of work. I realized it's been like 10 years that I've been working straight. Yeah, that's me.
As you mentioned, your background is ABM heavy. You took business management in college and sort of related jobs right after. So where did the interest with business originate? Was it a passion of yours ever since you were young?
No, definitely not. I think I hope that a lot of people can relate to this, but I had no idea what I wanted at that point. When I was applying to colleges, even after I had graduated college, I really had no idea. I was about as lost as you might expect from your regular soul-searching millennial. But I think more looking in hindsight, I was throughout most of my academic life, whether it was elementary or high school, college, I was what I would classify as your typical nerd. I was very socially awkward. I was, fairly book smart, got good grades and all of that. But on the inside, I was always like a little bit jealous of people who, parang it just felt like it came so easy to them to understand other people and to make other people feel comfortable with them, to make new friends, approach people they never knew, make friends in orgs. Like I didn't get into yung mga college orgs until I think like third year or fourth year, because I was just like, why would they want to talk to me? Why would they like we don't know each other? I think that experience that kind of like permeated my entire childhood. When I finally started working, I think I don't know if you guys relate to this, but I feel like the things that you struggle with when you're younger tend to become the problems that you end up being passionate about when you get older, because you kind of wish that somebody had helped you out with that when you were younger, or you wish you were better at it. I don't know if that's just me, hopefully not, and you can relate to that a little bit. But like if I look back on that, where I started super awkward, just very book smart, not socially good whatsoever. And also like I think one of the big issues that I had when I was younger, which I think a lot of people also experienced, was like finance is not being taught about in school. Even if I was in a business course, like I think there's something different because when you learn about it in a classroom versus if you experience why it's important to know that. And they never, there's always a lag with what they teach you in school versus what happens in the real world and what you end up needing for yourself. So this is more in hindsight, but I guess if you look at like my past experiences, those are really two kind of like main issues that I struggled with when I was younger. And now, fast forward to now, the career I ended up building was in marketing, which is very dependent on like understanding people, especially if you're in a company that relies on partnerships and events much more. Then you start bringing in this sort of like interpersonal skill, marketing yourself and understanding on the business side, ano ba yung kailangan nila from marketing, so that you can communicate what the business wants and the value that they bring to people and relate to their problems and why is this important and all that stuff. And then obviously on the finance side, like I was really drawn to kind of like bringing the marketing and communication skill to that area kasi it was never talked about before, and it's such a great opportunity right now na parang just so happened that the fintech industry really boomed. And where else are you going to see an opportunity in history na you can help literally millions of people get a better handle on their finances aside from like working in like marketing in a startup?
I like your first point, kanina, when you mentioned like you started off as being this shy kid, and I guess a lot of our students relate to that because one of the problems that we see in Kata Careers, our students are reluctant to book coaching sessions with the coaches.
I know.
Intimidate.
I'm like, if you're watching, I know that some of
Yeah.
you have connected with me and then not booked a session, and then I can't talk to you. So
Ayan, nabuking kayo ni Coach Belly. But now you know Coach Belly had a similar situation or problem, but look at her now. So let's move on now to this stage of yours we called a productive hiatus. So could you share more about that?
well, honestly, it was a lot of factors. Whenever I've explained it, first people in my life, when they found out that I was going to stop working, I think a lot of people were maybe not shocked, but a little bit surprised because, I'm fairly young. I'm not at retiring age yet. So it's a little bit strange to tell people that I'm leaving my job and I don't have another job lined up yet. But, well, I suppose that's one thing, that I was in a privileged enough position that I was taught to kind of be a saver ever since I was young. So having worked for 10 years and having, access to mga opportunities in the tech and startup world, which is, I think, just so happened to have the big boom, even especially when the pandemic came. And yeah, just a lot of factors that led me to a point where, okay, I was financially stable enough to know that it wouldn't stress me out more to take a break. And for a lot of people, I think that's difficult to say because they don't actually get specific about what they want and what they're looking for. If you don't know let's say, what is the amount of money that you want to make in life? What amount of money do you need to survive? Getting into specifics about the actual number gave me that confidence na, okay, I've saved enough. I know I don't need to chase endless amounts of money because there's always gonna be money to be made. But knowing what you actually need versus just what you could have, which is honestly unlimited, was a really helpful thing in helping me decide na parang, okay, I am actually over my goals for where I wanted to be in terms of savings and assets at this point in my life, and then comparing that to if I were to jump into another job right now, what does that mean for me in my life 5 years down the line, 3 years down the line? And it's hard to explain, I guess, kind of without going to specifics, but it was knowing what the trade-off was for me and knowing na, okay, I am not behind on my financial goals and my career goals, but you know what, maybe I've neglected my health goals for a long time, which I think a lot of people, especially in my generation and batches closer to me, have. I think it was more accepted before to be part of this hustle culture and be super busy all the time, and to be OTing all the time. And I think it's a good thing that that's changing. But when you realize there's a problem, not just in your career, but how that relates to your life, the next step is just to try to fix it. For me, that was kind of how I came to the decision. And I think in some ways, again, going back to that point about being really specific about your financial goals, but also, what do you want out of life? What things are important to you? And not just what things are important to you, in what order are they important to you? Because prioritizing is always going to be one of the most helpful things, but it's also one of the most underrated things. A lot of people like to make lists, but a lot of people don't like to have to choose between one thing on the list and another thing on the list. But often that's what you have to do. And yeah, so knowing what those things were for me helped me to decide okay, I want to take a break right now. And then when I did have my break, what were the things that were on my list that I had put aside for so long? So health was one thing I mentioned. I'm going to the gym so much now. So and it's finding things that you actually want to do as opposed to just I'm very against, or I really like to discourage people from taking a break if feeling nila na parang shucks, I'm just so burnt out, gusto ko lang matapos na to, I just don't want to do this job anymore. When you're in that kind of mindset, honestly, it's not a good place to make any decisions from. I would say if you feel it's parang super toxic ng work ko ganyan, but then you feel almost very trapped and very parang daming pressure, know that that's not a good place to make a decision from, because that's often parang the mindset and the situation people are in. Parang they make a quick decision kasi feeling nila na parang there's no other way, or they can't. And when you're in it, it's hard to kind of pull yourself out and then find a solution and find options. But that's honestly that's the situation. Now, if you make a decision at that point, most people will move to another job that pays less. They'll take a pay cut kasi parang I just want to get out of this toxic environment, or ayoko na, hindi ko na kaya yung boss ko, or whatever. But you see how that kind of whenever fear is what's driving your decision making, it doesn't end well. It never ends well. So yeah, I would say it's a lot of understanding what you want out of your career, but also out of your life, and then that will very naturally flow into knowing when you need to take a break, when you need to double down on your career goals, investments, and then whichever you decide to choose, it also kind of helps to inform very specifically ano ba yung gusto kong gawin, what do I even want. That's a question that a lot of people think they've answered, but they haven't really answered this. Ano ba talaga gusto mo out of your career in your life?
How do you keep productive during that that time? Because there's a lot of temptation, right, to just binge watch Netflix and do nothing when there's no set routine set by a school or a 9 to 5 job. So how do you keep your mind active and your body also active? So I guess you also mentioned about going to the gym, but what are the other things that you've been doing, Coach Belly, to keep this break time a productive one?
Well, there are a few things. Like, to be honest, for my specific situation, not much has changed aside from the actual work that I do, because I'm fortunate enough to have been on a work from home parang arrangement for the last couple of years since the pandemic. So really all I do is I get up, I open my curtains, I do, shower, whatever, all that stuff, breakfast, and then I just sit down on my table and I start working. So in my situation, all that's really changed is instead of sitting down to work on work stuff, I sit down and I work on life stuff. So I sew. So if, let's say, like, yung sister ko, nagpaputol siya ng pants recently. My parents wanted curtains, or there's like birthday for my only inaanak coming up, I'll find a birthday present for him. So I keep a to-do list. That's something I've done for years now. And I think it can be hard when you're not a lists person. But to be honest, like, even if you're not, I would really encourage you to just try it. Whether some people work better with a list that's on paper, some people work better with a calendar, some people work better with lista lang nila sa phone nila, so it's always available. But having, like, things that can help you retain information that you don't have to just retain in your brain, like, and memorize, has been really helpful. Not only does it clear your mind, but it's like you almost like don't have to think, because you're like thinking for your future self. Like, if you make this to-do list, then all you have to do in the morning is you get up, check the list, what's on the list, and then that you do that next. And then obviously, like, things will get added to the list as you go along. I'm not too strict about it because I'm not the kind of person that works well with being parang super detailed, but that's been really helpful. There are two other things that I would say for me personally have been helpful, na maybe mas relevant for people who are like taking a gap year and maybe like more in like the college generation, because I'm like so far from that by now. But one thing, like, for me personally, and I've heard this a lot more with like people as they've gotten older, so I don't know if super nafe-feel ba to kaagad like when you're in college, but your exposure to daylight is a huge thing. I don't know if you feel this, but whenever it's, let's say, like rainy season, and then you're like in your dark room, nakasarado yung curtains, everything is like dark, it almost like it's harder to move yourself out of bed and to get yourself productive. Kasi on some level, you still kind of, it still feels like it's a relaxing space, a homey space. And, it doesn't mean that you have to have, an office or whatever, or, any special kind of thing. It just means that literally all I do first thing in the morning is I open my curtains. So even if it means na parang right when you wake up, buksan mo lang yung window or open the door. If you have the luxury, having a space that is for work can help also. But a lot of it is like almost hacking your own mindset. Kasi if you're on the bed and then it's like malamig-lamig pa sa aircon, and then it's still like super cold, and it's dark and you're so comfy, it's very hard to move yourself out of that if you don't have almost like signals in your brain that you train yourself to follow. That's one thing that's been super helpful for me. I actually discovered na nag-pandemic lang, because obviously before I could just go to the office. Here it's like I'm still in the house and my brain is still on house mode. So paano na? What is the brain like signal that will differentiate working time and at home time? And for me, like, that's the curtains. That's one thing. And then I think if you're just starting out experiencing unstructured life, there are, like, I personally in my life have people na for whatever reason, maybe like super type A lang sila. They just always have a routine. They're very structured as people, and that's how they live life. So finding a buddy that is very structured, but also syempre that you get along with, that you have a similar schedule with. It's hard, which is why I don't like to bring it up as the first tip, because a lot of people give that tip for working out, and they're like, find yourself a workout buddy, blah, blah. I'm like, do you know how hard it is to find someone that's on your schedule, that you get along with, that, complements you and all of that? So I don't like to give that as the first tip, but if you have someone like that, it's always great to have support and, to have someone to keep you accountable, someone na parang, oh shucks, I have to go now kasi if nalate ako by 30 minutes, magagat sa akin yung friend ko. So yeah, I think those are the main things, really.
So self-discipline and having an accountability partner. Let's move on now to fast talk. Cheese on rice, yay or nay?
Nay. Only because I'm like old now and rice is even a luxury for me these days.
Working out or sleeping in?
Actually sleeping in. I'm a nighttime workouter. I work out at literally the last hour that the gym is open. If you're an introvert, that's like the best time to go, by the way. Because there are too many 6 a.m. people and there are very, very few 8 p.m. people. So
pro tip for the gym buds out there, if you want the equipment solo to yourself, go at night.
Yeah.
If you won the lottery, what would you do with the money?
Oh my god, I would invest it all. I would invest it all in like diversified, well, not stocks and bonds, because I wouldn't just keep it there. But like probably put like 1/3 each in like low risk, medium risk, and high risk investments if I can find them. So it's kind of hard to do that still now. And then I would just keep working for my daily expenses. Ironic since I'm on a break, but you know.
Talagang really looking ways to grow that money.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, the amount of time that I've spent thinking about how I would manage lottery winnings when I've never bought a lottery ticket myself is maybe not the most productive use of time.
All right, but I guess money comes in different ways, not just in lottery. So if ever you do get that dough, you know how to spend it or invest rather. Next question, which literary character would you be and why?
Since like college, I think I have basically not read any books because I find that but I am an audiobook person. So I don't have a favorite literary character. I don't want to just like pull something up. Like Ariel used to be my favorite Disney princess when I was a child. Yeah, I don't have a favorite one. I do love autobiographies though. I did like the Elon Musk one. This was before he went crazy. And then there's actually so many good ones. Read biographies.
Biographies are more relatable and more likely to happen in one's life.
Yeah, honestly. You're like, it makes you feel better that all the bad stuff and good stuff, whatever it is, happens to other people as well. And then you get to learn from how they dealt with it.
In 10 years' time, Koach Belli would have achieved blank.
Oh, you know, I would hope that I have helped people. I don't know if that sounds too general, but you know, whether it's through stuff like kind of career or in my regular day job, or even, you know, if I have kids and then kind of like bringing them up to be well-functioning adults that don't feel overwhelmed by the world and are also not like annoying people. I think that's it. Going back to like the first question you asked, like a lot of what I want to do out of life is just to, I guess, help people avoid some of the negative sides of it that I've experienced myself. Yeah, I hope that in 10 years or when I die or whenever that milestone is, I can look back on it and say that I really helped people, whatever the problem was.
Next question, would you rather be smart or lucky?
I would rather be lucky, because if you're lucky all the time, does it really matter how smart you are?
All right, next one, interesting. Mahal ko or mahal ako?
I would say mahal ako only because, well, this is kind of a long conversation pa about, I think the way that I look at like mahal, or you know, when people say that they love you or whatever, it's very much a choice. When I was younger, obviously, a lot of people think it's, you know, it's a feeling, parang do you have this connection, do you parang feel a certain type of way when you're with this person? And I don't know if it's partially being cynical, but I think when you get older, you realize that it's really more a commitment than anything else. It's an action that you do, and you know, it's like you invest in this person or in these people if you include your family and friends and all of that. And I know that I'm capable of doing that. I don't know if other people are capable of doing that. So I would say mahal ako.
Thanks for answering our past questions, Koach Belli. We're now moving towards the end part of this interview. This is something we always ask our coaches at the end of the episode. What is your call to action to our students out there trying to figure out their career path? What would be your words of wisdom to rise above those challenges?
Very heavy no last question. Big question. But I would say, I think the younger generations now are a little bit better about this, but really try to think about the life you want more than thinking about the career that you want. Because the career, honestly, it comes secondary. You know, knowing what you want out of life really empowers you to know what kind of career you want, because it will serve the life you want best. If you want to, you know, live in an exclusive subdivision in Manila and have, you know, your kids running around your yard in a gated community and all that, if that's what you want, then fine, that's great. It will tell you what financial goals you need to hit. If you're gonna stay employed, is that what you're gonna reach? Or do you open your own business? Kasi more opportunity there to earn more. And sort of like, you know, the idea of chasing a career just because people say that you should want to earn a lot of money, or you should want to have a certain title or become VP of this, become CEO of that. If you really think about it, people want those things because they think it will give them something else. So just make sure that it will actually give you what you want, you know, what you're looking out to get out of your career. And if you don't know yet, then that's also okay. The next step there is not to just dive into like, or grab onto the first opportunity that you you think kind of makes sense and then just like kind of go with that, but actually like try things and figure out what you actually want. Because skipping the figure out what you want step, that's how people end up na parang CEO sila of a company like after 30 years of working, and they realize parang, oh no, this is not what I actually want in life, and then they like start over and have their midlife crisis and stuff. So think about the life you want to build and then plan your career to match and support the life that you want.
Thank you for that great advice, Coach Belli. And seeing as our time is running short, but no worries, guys, because you have more opportunities to have one-on-one coaching sessions with coaches like Coach Belli through Kata Careers coaching platform. So yan na yung mga nahihiya dyan na students. Now is your opportunity to answer burning questions or even book a coaching session with Coach Belli to really delve deeper into the topic she discussed if you wish to explore that further. So again, we would just like to thank Coach Belli for taking the time off to discuss with us and share her journey. That's it from me, and we'll see each other again with another episode of #CoachBites next week.
Mas natututo ka ba kapag one-on-one ang usapan? Huwag kang mag-alala, because Kada Career lets cadets choose a coach that they'd want to consult with through the platform's offered coaching sessions. Get to interact with different coaches from a vast array of fields and expertise, whose aim is to guide you in your journey of excelling in your career. But that's not all. Here in Kada Career, hindi ka nag-iisa because of the inclusive community that welcomes you to the platform. Get to meet and interact with other people that share the same experiences as you, as the community strives to empower one another in achieving their goals in life. O diba? Talagang sulit dito sa Kada Career dahil libre ang admission. What else are you waiting for? Sali ka na sa Kada Career and take one step closer to reaching for the stars. Kada Career. Basta career, Kada Career.